have been doing this all wrong here. This part should have been doing the turning. This piece I should have been holding in my hand.
That's right. The other day when I was editing out episode number 5 in this series, I was thinking, why does this seem so familiar? And I had the feeling I was doing something wrong. And then I remembered, almost 2 years ago, when I was making this pen, I had to enlarge the blank. And I did it differently. And it worked a lot better. I was able to get a much more even, I was going to say coating, but I guess it would be a more even removal of the inside by doing it this way rather than the way I did it the other day.
Well, I put the spindle jaws back on here. And I got a piece of a mop handle that I think I pulled out of somebody's garbage about 10 years ago. I knew that it'd come in handy someday. Well, let's just see how badly out of round this is here. Well, it could be worse, I guess. What do you expect for nothing, right? Yeah, I think that'll probably be okay. Just tape it on there a little better, maybe. On the other hand, maybe not. Let's see what'll happen here. Yeah, I don't need the tape. Now it's time to have a little bit of fun here. Remember we cut these off of the ends here a couple or 3 days ago? Okay, the joints run this way. Where is it going to break? At the glue or at the wood? Okay, I'm going to have to get my hammer. My goodness, that was hard.
Now, I was pretty sure from doing a test like this in the past that it wasn't going to be right along the joint. It probably is going to break just a little bit off to one side or the other. But looking at it here now, it's pretty close to the joint. Let's save the other pieces for another day. Yeah, this is about the salt and pepper shakers, not about how strong the glue joint is.
Now, I can well imagine that most of you in this private Facebook group that are, watching this series for the free draw, you probably, a lot of you don't know this. Well, some of you probably do. But when I glue this tube inside this piece of wood here, which is called the blank, I want the glue to adhere to the metal as well as possible. So what we do in a case like this is we scuff the outside of the tube. We do this on a pen as well. And this will just make the glue stick a lot better to the metal. Now another thing that will have an adverse effect and will cause the glue not to stick on the brass tube is grease. So I'm just using some isopropyl alcohol here. And I should mention that I don't know what that is that I was trying to sand there. I think it must be a type of chrome because it was extremely hard. I did get it scuffed, but it doesn't scuff anywhere near like a brass tube. Okay, now try not to touch that with my fingers until I get the rubber gloves on. Now, needless to say, we don't want to be getting epoxy glue on the inside of the brass tube. Okay, I don't know if that's going to be strong enough, or maybe I should double it. I don't know, I've never done this before with tubes this large. I think I better double it just to make sure. Okay, now I have to be careful not to push that in. Now I don't want to use any more than I have to because this stuff is expensive. Okay, this one's the rosin, this one's the hardener. I don't know if they're both the same viscosity, so it's possible if one's thicker than the other, it's gonna not want to spread out as much. I would think I've got it pretty even here. Okay, let's mix for at least a minute. Alrighty, here we go. It's nice to have the extra time. Alright, I think I got that pretty well coated. Now, I realize that these rubber gloves are going to be sacrificed. Now I want to save this stir stick. I probably didn't need to mix up as much as I did. Now, gotta keep an eye on that. This is all going to be trimmed off later. I've got to keep an eye on this and make sure that it is not going to slide out one end or the other. I think that's pretty good, actually. Yeah. I'm going to just leave it sitting flat like that and it shouldn't slide. Well, This is all garbage. This was the first one we did. Well, actually, you didn't see me do the other three. What I did for the other three was I did them all at the same time. And also, the base plate wax, I only used one layer instead of two. And I found that when I was editing out my video, and looking at this one here, well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I want to apologize for the bad camera angle. Sorry, camera was set way too low, and you're kind of missing a lot of stuff. Sorry about that. However, yeah, when I did the other two, I found that I could, once I had the glue mixed up. Oh, and by the way, I mixed up approximately twice as much as you saw me mix up for when I did this one. And it only took about 2 minutes altogether to get the tube in, and so I knew that if I had 15 minutes, that I was gonna have lots of time. And I was finding, those of you who are curious, how did I find this stuff? Well, the first 10 minutes working with it was pretty easy, but when I got up to the 15-minute mark, and I was using a sort of a makeshift homemade timer here just to keep track of everything, I was finding that after 15 minutes, it was getting pretty stiff. And, you know, you wouldn't want to be trying to slide a brass tube into a blank after 15 minutes. At least that was my experience. It could be that maybe if the stuff was a little colder, it might be a little bit less viscous and more easy to work with. Anyway, what we got to do now is I've got to, break these out. This stuff is hard now. Anyway, let's get at it here. Okay, I put in a brand new blade here. This is number 11. I've probably used this blade this size more than any other. This is pretty brittle. Oh my, look at that. Remember, I doubled up the plugs, and that was a waste because this one here, it wasn't doing any good at all. Wonder if the same thing happened on the other end. No, it seems to be in place. I can see it down there. Okay, now this rough surface here I have to sand away, and that's going to be very tricky. I think you might remember me saying that I have to be careful not to shorten the tube. This whole thing has to be as long as possible. In other words, as soon as the sandpaper gets down to the metal tube, I have to stop. The same as you do when you're taking a pen blank down in the barrel trimmer. Same idea. Okay, I think I know what happened here. When I shoved the blade in the other side, well, it pushed the other plug out. Well, I'll know for next time not to waste the, Oh, that one came out really good. Okay. Now, if the other three go like that, I'll be happy.
Well, I'm sitting here right now editing out that last scene. I'm thinking to myself, maybe I shouldn't be happy. Maybe I should be a bit worried. Could this mean that 15-minute epoxy is not going to stick well to the metal? Well, I guess we'll soon know. I'm hoping that maybe by the end of the day, I might be able to do a little turning. Well, if not today, tomorrow for sure.
I probably could have saved having to put in a new blade. This is actually going a lot easier than I thought it would. Look at that. Okay, now to the sanding machine. Well, my thinking here is if I use an old belt that already has something in it, this looks like paint, but I should have one that's a lot worse than that. No, those are all new.
I really did have one. It was all loaded up with glue from sanding down glue joints. And I would save it and use it every time I wanted to sand something that had glue in it. Anyway, enough of this. It's gone. Must have thrown it out. You'd think I'd remember, though.
Now, whenever I put on a new belt, I always check the tracking. Could be out a little bit.
In that previous scene, how many of you noticed that I left the Forstner in the chuck in the drill press? Well, I scratched myself on it there. Not badly, just annoyingly.
May as well have everything as square as possible. Now this side right here, it was the side that was up against the wax paper on the table, like that. So it's pretty square, but everywhere else there's little bumps. Pretty uneven. I'd like to have two adjacent sides that are square. So, feeling a little bit uneasy about doing this. Just gonna have to go real easy here and hold it down nice and flat and just touch it until the little bumps are gone. Otherwise I'm going to get it really out of square.
I could probably go down a fraction of a millimeter more before I touch the metal tube. But you know the old saying, quit while you're ahead. You know, I can always take more off, but I can't put it back on. So, yeah, I think that's probably it for today anyway. This video must be about 20 minutes long already. And I'm going to finish the other 3 later this afternoon and get this uploading, and I guess we'll be turning tomorrow. Thanks for watching.